Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. I haven't really heard anyone else discussing this, but there is a significant weight difference between the Plaid battery pack and the long-range battery pack. The Plaid weighs in at 4,766 pounds and the long-range only 4,561 pounds. That's a difference of 205 pounds in weight. None of this can be attributed to the new heat pump or the new interior design, as they are identical. Well, not quite identical. The Plaid has 3 motors, but these motors are lighter weight. The previous motors, likely being used in the long range, weigh around 70 pounds. If the new motors are 35 pounds, and there are 3 in the Plaid, then that is 105 pounds of motor in the Plaid, compared to 2 at 70 pounds, equaling 140 pounds for the long range, which means the Plaid has saved an additional 35 pounds in weight from the new motors, compared to the long range. In other words, the 205 pounds weight difference between the long range and Plaid is a further 35 pounds, or a total of 240 pounds difference. The only other difference between these two cars, where there's any significant weight, is in the battery pack. The Plaid has a battery that weighs around 240 pounds more than the long range. And okay, we can't say we're too surprised, considering the specifications of the Plaid, but no one seems to be talking about this. The previous 100 kilowatt-hour battery packs weighed in at 1,378 pounds. Now, if the new long range weighs 322 pounds lighter, that's a big difference. Sure, there's some weight savings in the new Model S, such as the new lithium-ion 12-volt battery, new heat pump and radiator. Oh, and no stalks either. But there are also other extras like the computer and rear monitor. Anyway, these weight savings may be between 50 and 100 pounds, so let's split the difference and use 75 pounds of estimated weight saving. So if we attribute 75 pounds of the 322 pounds weight saving to the new design, and bear in mind the long range is not using the new lightweight motor, 322 minus 75 equals 247 pounds lighter battery in the new long range than the previous. If the 100 kilowatt-hour battery weighed 1,378 pounds, then the new long-range battery would weigh around 1,131 pounds. Now, if this is the new chemistry that everyone likes talking about, then it would be the manganese and nickel cathodes, as that was the required cathode chemistry for long-range. And the chemistry for the Plaid would be full nickel, no manganese, in order to line up with the difference in performance and weight. I think all these numbers line up perfectly. Anyway, here is where it gets interesting. If the new Model S long range is able to deliver the same range, yet more horsepower and performance, yet that much lighter, then you must think they're also using a smaller size battery. I think the long range is only a 90 kilowatt-hour battery, and that Tesla were able to achieve that same range with a smaller battery because there was so much weight saving. But then to also be getting that much more performance from the smaller battery too, it's just too big a leap in numbers. If the car weighs less, then it needs a smaller battery to equal range. So we can assume it's likely a smaller battery. But the fact it has that much more horsepower and performance, well, it doesn't quite add up, does it? Then, going by the extra weight of the Plaid battery being 240 pounds heavier, taking it to 1,371 pounds would imply 20% more weight. But given the additional performance, the Plaid battery would likely be a different chemistry as the long range. It will be using the high nickel batteries. Therefore, we'll be getting more kilowatt hours per pound, and thus likely a 120 kilowatt hour battery if the long range is 90 kilowatt hours, which is about the same weight battery as the performance battery, only the performance P100D was only 100 kilowatt hours. In other words, compared to the Plaid and the old P100D, the batteries weigh about the same, but the Plaid has 20% more kilowatt hours for the same weight. 20% on battery technology. Now that is a big jump, especially within a year. Now, what else has been happening over that year? Oh yeah, 4680 batteries. Yes, you may be able to explain it with 18650 using 4680 chemistry, technology, tablets, and perhaps they'll also be similar. But why would you bother doing it for the oldest tech when the technology it's designed for is ready to go? The battery pack may not even be structural, but I would say there is a good chance it is. I mean, the amount of torque the Plaid is going to pull, it needs to be as rigid as possible. I don't think it's just 18650 with structural pack either is enough to be responsible for the weight reduction, because that wouldn't explain the extra horsepower we're seeing. I would like to hope that they are using a structural pack now. It would make sense, especially if they're using the 4680s. I think this is important to analyse, as there are only two possibilities here. Either the new long range has a similar size battery as the old one, i.e. both 100 kilowatt hours, yet the new battery pack is able to get that much more power at 247 pounds less weight, about 20% less weight for the same size battery. Of course, this battery pack also gets better performance, despite weighing less. Or the alternative is Tesla are using a 90 kilowatt hour pack, and Tesla are able to get about the same amount of range, yet also 123 more horsepower and 0 to 60 in 0.6 seconds quicker, with a smaller size battery. Either way, these are step changes, but I think it very likely the new long range requires fewer kilowatt hours, and Tesla have gone with around a 90 kilowatt hour battery. I seem to be saying 20% a reasonable amount of times, and I believe that is what we're seeing, is about a 20% increase in range and performance for the same weight of battery, except for the Plaid, which is perhaps 25%. That probably would track pretty close to what we would expect from the 4680 batteries. The old long range had a 100 kilowatt hour battery, pushing a 4,883 pound car. The new long range likely only needs 90 kilowatt hours to power a 4,561 pound car. It makes sense if they're both getting the same range. The problem is the car costs $130,000. No one is prepared to tear down their car to see if it's using 4680s. Sandy Munro is selling bumper stickers to see if everyone can donate enough money to buy one to tear down. Tesla know that no one wants to tear down something so expensive either. It's a sacrilege. So no one will find out for a while. The long-range versions have similar range, and the Performance and Plaid have similar ranges. Therefore, if the Plaid had a similar weight reduction as the long range, we would also expect the ranges to be the same, as they are, except the Plaid still has 180 pounds more weight than this, which is another way of saying 180 pounds more battery that would add to range, to Plaid compared to the Performance, and that comes in about 15% more battery here. Now on the power curve, we have their 2012 P85. That car was only getting around 253 miles of range. When an additional 15 kilowatt hours were added, the range was up to 387 miles. Sure, also another 6 years of technology to help too, but there's no denying adding 15 kilowatts of extra battery helps range. Well, it looks like we have an additional 20 kilowatt hours of battery on the Plaid. There was going to have to be an enormous impact on range. Yet we only have similar range as the previous Performance. It makes no sense that the Plaid has a similar range to a car with a smaller battery that also weighs more. I think we're just about there now in calculating the most likely battery types in these two cars. I'm still giving it 70% that the Plaid has 120 kilowatt hour high nickel 4680 and the long range has 90 kilowatt hours nickel and manganese batteries. Again, why would Tesla want to have two versions of the 18650 now, one for the long range and one for the Plaid? We're talking major R&D and expense. I'm not trying to sell this narrative, Tesla are using the 4680 batteries. Sure, I hope they're using them, as it means there's a good chance the stock price will triple next year, which is why I just want to get to the bottom of it. For the 18650 believers out there, it would be great if you could back up your theories to explain some of these numbers too. Also, I can't find anywhere Tesla or Elon have confirmed the use of them. I'm not sure how amazing everyone realizes the specification of these cars, and just how fast they are. Now put it this way, if they're not using 4680 batteries, then one day they will presumably have 4680 batteries in them. Now, how much better are we expecting 4680 batteries to be than 18650? I mean, the car is already crazy fast, but 4680 would take it to a whole other level. Similar to how the Plaid took the Performance to a whole other level. Wait, probably exactly that. Seriously, we all know what sort of performance increase we're expecting from the 4680 batteries. I would say Plaid matches that increase exactly. Anyway, here at Tesla Economist, I like to question everything and everyone. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.